Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Hello and welcome to this week's Countryside Podcast with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. And, well, back to the farm for you this week, Kiri.
Yes, I popped up to Ellerslie to see Willie Christian and his family with their recent imports of Brahman cattle.
And what's so special about these Brahman cattle? Obviously, we'll hear it in detail during the podcast, but the outline of it?
Generally, they're a very good meat breed. They grow very fast, originating from the USA. And Willie's actually one of the very first people in the UK to import these embryos. And also within Europe as well. He's one of the founder members. And
it's nice in this day and age. I suppose the Isle of Man, difficult enough to introduce things to the island, because obviously the getting to and from it. But people don't seem as frightened now to have a dabble, if I can put it diplomatically, in different breeds and different areas of diversity.
That's right. We're in agriculture. We're getting told to diversify, and I think people are looking for new markets and really trying to strive for success in whatever they try to do. And new genetics is always exciting, especially for a farmer. And getting to and from the Isle of Man is expensive, but it's definitely worthwhile. And to have Brahmans in the Isle of Man is fantastic.
He's only trying to outdo Penty, I think, when he's with the success with his cooking oil. I took a trip to one of the only one I think I know of in the heart of town, certainly in Douglas, Alexandra Nurseries, where Tom Long and his wife Helen and all the family are involved in running that business. And we listen later on the programme that the history behind that is absolutely wonderful, with it so busy over 100 years ago with supplying the boarding houses and things. Remarkable.
It is brilliant, isn't it? To see it in town as well. Most green spaces are taken up now with development and such like. So to have a family business still, going ahead, striving hard, it is lovely to see. But what kind of things was he growing?
Yeah, they do a lot of the cut flowers and stuff at the moment. And the great thing, they have the little sheds, the polytunnels and things, where they've got seeds that they've started off various vegetables, to get going, so people can come and buy them and actually plant them in their own allotments, and to give them a head start, where they need that sort of initial tender loving care and stuff. And also the fresh herbs and things that they're doing as well, which a lot of people are seeing them all on these telly programs, throw a bit of rosemary and a bit of
it's great, isn't it? Especially local homegrown stuff. You can't beat it.
No.
It's a great idea.
And also following on from you talking to the girls from Crufts a few weeks ago, I went along to find out more about the Greyhound Aid League Isle of Man. And I spoke to Sally McMullen, who's one of the founder members of it, to see what that was all about, because the initial outline of it is, a lot of greyhounds involved in the racing side of things, and some of them get injured and some of them retire, and they're sort of taking some of them on and trying to get new homes for them, to get a nice sort of life at the end of their careers.
They've had a busy life, and it's nice to see them have a comfortable home towards the twilight years. And a lot of dogs are still very young when they finish racing, so there's a lot of good years left in them to be a nice pet or a companion for a walk. And
it doesn't mean just because they're old doesn't mean to say they're useless, does it?
This is very true.
Sit back and listen to this week's edition of Countryside.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
There is a fantastic amount of very good nurseries around different parts of the Isle of Man, but not many that are situated still in the middle of towns. One such one that's left in Douglas is the Alexander Nurseries, and that's run by Tom Long and his wife Helen and their family. I went along and caught up with Tom to find out a bit of history about it first.
We're over 120 years old. Originally started off by a chap called William Pollard, and he concentrated mainly on shrubs and trees, and then it was developed into more of a market garden. The families who ran the place then were growing lots of salad crops and still lots of ornamentals and plants and various bits and bobs like that. And then over the years it's gone from there, market gardens, and at one stage there was also a 9-hole golf course and tennis courts incorporated in the nursery.
You said about the salad things that you were growing. Was that mainly for the businesses in Douglas at the time?
When my grandfather was here, he started working here in the 1920s. They were growing a lot of salad crops for the boarding houses and hotels on the promenade. They produced tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, and all those were sent down onto the prom for all the hundreds of visitors we had in those days.
The whole Douglas Promenade was full of boarding houses, so it must have kept them busy back then.
Well, it would have done from TT week right through till Grand Prix week. It was the main source of income. That was what they did. There was Manx tomatoes, Manx lettuce, Manx cucumbers, something that you can't hardly get these days.
What did they find to do in the winter time? Was it mainly sort of sorting out things for the next summer?
Well, that would be it. They'd be preparing things and they would be getting their plants ready for the following year. They'd make a lot of holly wreaths around about Christmas time, and then they'd be forcing daffodil bulbs, getting daffodils to flower early, and then they'd be starting again with the tomato plants again once the spring came and the weather improved. And there was always shrubs and things. They were producing a lot of bedding plants in the summer as well. So it was always something going on. It was an all year round sort of thing. But the winter months would go a bit quieter, but they'd find things to do.
What about the rivalry back then? Was there many other nurseries in Douglas, 100 odd years ago?
Well, there would be. Up this top end of town, there's lots of market gardens and nurseries. They're all producing homegrown produce for the hotels. There wasn't the imports of fruit and veg like there was those days. The Isle of Man was a lot more self-sufficient. And up this top end of town, there'd be about 7 or 8 different nurseries all doing the same sort of thing. Hotchkiss had a big nursery up opposite the grandstand there. They had a shop in town, so there was lots of nurseries all doing the similar sort of thing, all producing produce for the visitors.
What about nowadays? Are you the only one? I can't think of any more in the centre of Douglas.
Well, we're the only one really left now. There's lots of other nurseries now, but on the outskirts of town, maybe towards Peel, but we're the last one in its original spot. In Douglas, I think, yeah.
What sort of things have you got in here? I'm looking outside there, and the polytunnels, as they call them now, and there's still one of the original greenhouses there too?
Well, that greenhouse was put up in 1977, so it's getting on a bit now, but we replaced old wooden greenhouses, which had been there nearly 100 years before that. So, yes, but now it's polytunnels, and we grow a lot of ornamental plants now for summer bedding plants, and also produce quite a lot of vegetable plants for people to come and buy and plant in their own gardens, like cabbages and cauliflowers and Brussels sprouts and tomatoes, for the people to do the homegrown produce.
When you say about the vegetable, a lot of people now moved into doing a little bit for themselves after these telly programs and digging a little patch in the garden, maybe having an allotment. Is this sort of helping them out? You get a lot of people coming in and getting a few things to get them going? Yeah,
it gives people ideas, and it's easy to grow a few runner beans or a few broad beans and put a few lettuce plants in, and you can't beat your own homegrown stuff. It tastes 1,000 times better than what you can buy in the shops, and people are coming and buying a few seed potatoes now. They're putting a few spuds in, and then they'll have a go, maybe growing a few tomatoes. They might have a little greenhouse, or they might put up a little polytunnel of their own back garden, tomatoes and courgettes. So yeah, it's good, and the programs on the television do help things. It gives people a few ideas. It's just the old Manx weather, though, sometimes deters people a little bit, and sometimes they might get a little bit eaten by slugs or smashed away by the wind and the rain. But I think all the trouble that you put into it, it is worth it, and you get a far better, healthier produce. A nice crispy lettuce or a few tomatoes for your tea can't be bad, can it? If you nip out in your garden and get them.
And of course there's some herbs here as well, which again are getting a big high profile for involving cooking. Not quite the simpler spuds and heron that we had.
No, we sell a lot of herb plants as well. People can fill a little plant pot and put them at the back door by the kitchen there. They can pick a little bit of mint or a bit of parsley just to garnish their home cooking. It's you can't beat it.
How relaxing is it when you're out there? Do you find it you're in there on your own some evenings in the summer doing work and just that peaceful, you and the plants?
Yeah, it's nice. It's rewarding to see the fruits of your labour. From growing plants from a little seed into a little plant, and you can see it going out in somebody's car, and you think, that was an achievement to produce something nice, and I hope people will get some benefit and some pleasure out of it.
But also, the time I've been here, Tom, the people that's coming in and out, they seem to be on first name terms with most of them.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've got a very lot of loyal customers who I get back time and time again, whose family have been coming in here before me with my father and then my grandfather. They can all trace their times coming here to buy things. We're very lucky in that respect. I suppose about 70% of my customers I could give them their first name. always like a few new ones coming in through the door, though. It doesn't never goes amiss, but well, I'm very lucky, yeah. And I think we all seem to get on well, and they all come back anyway. So must be doing something right, I think.
Tom Long from the Alexandra Nurseries in the heart of Douglas there. What a fantastic setup. All that history and being involved in the family for so long. And, you know, we associate Kiri out in the country, don't we? But to see one still going in the middle of a town that hasn't been snapped up for development, I suppose.
That's right. It's very rare to see it. It's such a big space as well to grow all the flowers and plants. It's lovely to see a family business, you know, being successful and continuing for many years as well.
And not many farmers, I suppose, are really proud gardeners, are they? If they could plough it up and plant a few spuds in it, it's going to be more benefit. But it is, you know, there are so many different choices around the Isle of Man, but one still there with so much steeped in history, you know, from feeding the boarding houses years ago, and you know.
Yeah, it's a shame that boarding houses are gone. You know, that local produce is still at the forefront, and yeah, it's lovely to see an old traditional business continuing. Yeah, it's a shame they do die off, but hopefully the family will keep this one going, though.
Yeah, he will. Old traditions indeed, but something new that she went to find out about, wasn't there?
Yes, I popped up to Ellerslie to see 2 special additions at the farm, 2 Brahman calves. They were imported from the USA as embryos implanted into Aberdeen Angus surrogate mothers, and now they're born on the ground in Crosby. Really lovely sight. And I spoke to Willie Christian to see how it all came about.
The calves are a result of a project I started about 4 years ago. It sounds slightly mad, but I picked up some years ago on work that was going in Australia regarding meat grading. They were looking for changes to their meat grading system, and something which would be recognised by the consumer. They've been developing over the last 10 years a system of grading based on tenderness. The number one tenderness animal in the world, shall we say, has turned out to be the Brahman. 2/3 of the world's cattle have Brahman in them in one form or another. So that's really what alerted me to the Brahmans.
So you went out and you purchased some eggs and brought them back to the UK. I believe these are the first calves ever imported into the UK.
These are the first Brahmans ever imported into the UK that we're aware of, and also the second into Europe. There's a guy in Germany just ahead of us who's on exactly the same tact as I am. Yeah, so it was a little difficult to decide how to go about getting animals here, so we decided on doing it on the basis of bringing embryos in.
And the mothers you've implanted these eggs into are the Aberdeen Angus. They seem like really maternal cows to carry these eggs, and it's been a very successful pregnancy so far, and obviously they've been born. And the temperature here in the Isle of Man is very cold, somewhat to what the Brahmans are used to, really, I suppose. Are they adapted okay?
Yeah, they're adapting okay. Temperature-wise, you must remember that in the deserts and everything, and in the world, generally speaking, nighttime temperatures are usually pretty cold, so they are capable of surviving temperatures, but it will be interesting to see how they adapt to our climate.
And long-term, what kind of animal will they turn into compared to what everybody sees in the fields around the Isle of Man? These calves have got a hump on their back, they've got very long ears. You know, they're already a massive growth rate.
Yeah, well, the European animals, that we're used to, shall I say, have been developed for yield. And like I say, these guys here have turned out to be the number one in the world for tenderness. The consumer today has a fairly big disposable income. So the longer term project now is to see, and this is going to take 3, 4, 5 years going now, to see what we can cross the Angus, and you get a Brangus, as they say, Charolais, Limousins. The breed societies have already expressed an interest. The eldest one, bull calf we have, he's already going to stud at 12 months.
And will he be used within the UK, or will he go into Europe?
He will be used wherever. The ultimate ambition is to get him to stud in Holland, which means that with Holland's health status, they can travel anywhere. But at the moment, we're 12 months, hopefully we'll have him standing in stud.
Will he stay in the Isle of Man for stud, or does he have to go back to the UK to go on centre?
They go to the UK, and like I say, the hope is, which at this stage it's all hope, depending on interest and so on and so forth, and the growth rates and goodness knows what all, is to get them to Holland.
They look such lovely, quiet cattle. They seem very docile compared to some of the British breeds. The European breeds seem very flighty, but these two calves are so quiet and lovely to handle as well.
In selecting the bulls that we selected 2 bulls. The Brahman Society selects, or the features that they look for are marbling and tenderness, and they're both scored on that. So we looked for bulls that had high scores in both those traits, tenderness and marbling, etc., especially tenderness, because that's the angle I'm on. And then we had to try and find females that were, shall we say, of the top ilk that we could match these bulls up to. So that's taken a while. So
certainly not done overnight, all of this. How long have you been working away at this?
Believe it or not, like I said at the start, I'm 4 years down the line.
And has it been a family decision to do this, or is it just your own little project?
No, I've kept it to myself, by and large. A friend of ours came to inspect them the first night. One was a calf to have a look at him. He turned up about 11 o'clock. So he'd been in the loop for a little while. But it's like he said, while he was having a cup of tea, this is the end of 4 years' work to Linda. And Linda said, well, I've only known about it for 6 months.
Your poor wife. But no, it's lovely to see new genetics, new breeds come into the UK and within Europe as well. But all the way to the Isle of Man, it's an expensive job, isn't it, really?
It's not been the cheapest of projects, shall we say. But anyway, I don't ride motorbikes anymore or do anything exotic,
So we hope in the future these will go on and do well. The tenderness is a big factor within the beef industry now. There seems to be a lot more swing back towards the native cattle, the Aberdeen Angus, the Hereford, etc. So there could be a real place for the Brahman then. Yeah,
well, when me and Penty were on the abattoir project, going to build our own abattoir, one of the places we visited, or I visited, was Jody Schechter's, the ex-racing Formula 1 racing driver. He has a place in Hampshire where all of the main restaurants and chefs in England and primarily London get their meat from. This is a state-of-the-art place, eliminating stress and whatever else, because stress creates tough meat, as everybody will know. The whole object of his setup is to make everything as stress-free as possible and make everything as tender as possible. So I learnt a lot from seeing how he operated his plant, etc., etc. So I would say they will not be putting these through a commercial plant at this stage. As I say, it's going to take 3-4 years, maybe 5 years, to get animals on the ground commercially and see how they perform. As I say, the breed societies have shown an interest now in wanting straws, etc., etc. So we've already spoken to restaurants and whatever in London and given them dossiers of what these animals are about, and there's information from what we're getting back. It's all looking positive.
You mentioned one of the bull calves will go to stud. The other bull calf, he might possibly stay here. Will you do your own project in the farm?
Well, we've had an inquiry from France about the other fella, so subject to his growth rates and what various other data about him, he may go to France if the deal is cracked.
And that was Willie Christian from Ellerslie chatting about his Brahman calves.
Strange looking ones. I know it's radio, but if you're thinking what type of cattle they are or calves they are, if you go to the Manx Radio website page, and you can go to, of course, Countryside Podcast and listen to the programme in its entirety again if you wish. But there'll be pictures there as well of it to go with the stories, and strange looking ones, I suppose, aren't they?
They're really lovely. They're so docile, but they are gigantic. They really are massive compared to a normal calf, I feel. Their big droopy ears just set them off. They're just fantastic. It's something very new for the Isle of Man.
Is it something really pushed on by the way that people are expansively cooking and eating, I suppose, and wanting something different that's supposed to be tenderer?
Yeah, people are looking for quality within the meat, and you know that they want a great eating experience, and Willie's trying to go down this track of providing what these people want, and hopefully in time he will be able to supply a good amount of the Brahman meat, and it is supposed to be one of the tenderest meat in the world.
Do you think is he waiting to sort of get what feedback from them before he expands?
He's had quite a lot of interest, so hopefully it will be something that he'll be able to get into quite broadly and progress well. But it's so new. It's all a learning curve for him and the family. But as they stand at the minute, they're very lovely animals.
Yeah, we wish them well with that.
Oh, definitely.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, on a couple of weeks ago on the programme, Kiri was talking to some of the successful participants in this year's Crufts event. Well, keeping on the theme of dogs, I went out to find more about the Greyhound Aid League Isle of Man and spoke to one of the founder members, Sally McMullen.
We established ourselves as a charity in 2012, and we've been working ever since to help with the welfare, rehoming, rescue, anything to do with greyhounds and other sight hounds such as lurchers and whippets, any kind of a sight hound really, which is quite a broad spectrum.
Why particularly those breeds of dogs? Is it because of the environment that they're bred into?
It's because they are the only dogs bred for the human entertainment industry, and they are bred in their thousands, and when they are racing, they have a home and they're cared for in the racing kennels, but when they become surplus to requirement, thousands and thousands of greyhounds then need a home. They're discarded as no longer required by the racing industry.
What reasons are they discarded for? Is it injury or coming last in all the races?
There is a wide range of reasons as to why they're no longer required. It can be that at the age of maybe 1 year old, they're tested for racing, and if they show no inclination for racing, they are not required. It may be due to injury, and injuries are quite common in the racing industry. The speeds that the dogs travel at don't help, with broken bones and other injuries, twists and strains and cuts. And it may be that they are simply not winners, they're not winning all the time and successful, so there are plenty more greyhounds where they came from, so they're no longer required and they're replaced by other greyhounds who might just do better.
So you could really get a hold of any age of a dog, really?
They come in from 1 year old onwards, and many of them are very gentle and friendly dogs. They're well trained, well behaved on the whole, because they've gone through the racing kennels where they have to behave in a certain way, and they do actually make very good pets because of that. They learn how to walk on the lead properly, and they tend to be very quiet and calm, gentle dogs.
They are quite thin and streamlined, but pretty tall and long. I'm not going to eat you out of house and home, are they?
No, surprisingly, although they've got very long legs and they are very big dogs, they fold up quite small. Once their legs are folded up, there's not a lot of dog there. They have 2 meals a day. After a couple of walks a day, they are quite happy to relax and spread out and sleep the rest of the day away.
How do you get a hold of them, and what do you do with them then? Find homes for them?
Yes, there are many rehoming centres throughout the UK who take in the dogs from the racing tracks, and we then will find homes on the Isle of Man for them. We do a home visit and try and match the particular dog with a particular home as to whether the home has cats or children or other dogs, or if they're on a farm with sheep. So we are very careful to match the dogs and the people together.
But can you find homes from as quick as you can rescue the other ones?
Sadly, no. Every home we find is wonderful, because not only does that dog have a good home and a forever home for life where it will be happy and looked after, it also releases a space in the rescue kennels for another dog to be taken in off the racetracks. So each dog that finds a home, it's 2 dogs saved, but there's never enough. There are so many thousands looking for homes. We do our best, and we are just a very small charity working with lots of other charities to do our best to find homes for them.
What about people who maybe listen and think, I'd like to support that and maybe have a dog as well? I mean, they're pretty fast creatures. Do they need exercise 10 times a day?
Surprisingly little compared with other working dogs. They do enjoy a couple of good half-hour walks a day. They will enjoy being off the lead when and where that's appropriate. And they are very easy to look after. they adapt into family life very easily and love being pampered. They love their home comforts. They love a soft bed, plenty of food, and lots of cuddles. So yes, they do make very good pets.
And what about if somebody wants more information on maybe taking one of the greyhounds or one of the dogs?
If they would like to ring me, I'm on 409 543, and they can also have a look at our Facebook page, which is Greyhound Aid League Isle of Man. If people aren't able to home a dog, then we do have a lot of fundraising events throughout the year, a variety of events from coffee mornings to country fairs, and anybody who would be interested in helping us would be very welcome, or just supporting us by attending the events and coming along to have a look at some of the craft work we have available as well. So we do a lot of things throughout the year, and all of this can be found on Facebook.
Sally McMullen telling me all about the Greyhound Aid League Isle of Man. And what a fantastic venture that is to get these greyhounds and try and rehome them with different people and everything. It's a lovely thing to be involved with, isn't it?
It's really great to see something that towards the end of its life, or an older dog being rehomed and looked after, especially some of them have a busy lifestyle in their previous home possibly. It's great to see any animal being looked after to its absolute max. It's nice to
probably
see.
Probably still young as well, that may be injured and can't race anymore, you see, as well. But it reminded me of the horses' home a bit on Richmond Hill, you know, where they're cared for and the kids can go and see them. So
it's nice for a group to get together and be enthusiastic and look after these dogs. It's vital, really.
Yes, and while we're on the subject of dogs, let's just reiterate, you'll have heard lots of comments about it recently, about the dogs getting into sheep. And I also had somebody on the phone as well saying it's not just the sheep we've got to look out for. If they get in with cattle and chase them and stir them up as well, it winds the cattle up, especially if they've got calves, and can be very, very dangerous, can't they?
Well, that's it. Coming into this time of year, there's a lot of people lambing, and there's a lot of calves being born as well. It's very dangerous for the person walking the dog too, especially with the cattle. But the untold damage done with sheep, it doesn't show for another 14 days or so, and stillborn lambs isn't nice. It isn't great for the farmer. So it really is a push to try and keep all these dogs under control, especially just this time of year.
And we were just talking about before about how well you think you know your dog.
Yes.
Once it sees it, it's like a rabbit in the headlights, isn't it? It just can change just like that. And the most calm, placid dog in the world can just snap and change. That's never done it before.
Well, this is right, and everyone thinks, Fido's, he's never done anything like that. But we've had even a working collie towards the end of her life, 12 years old, go and worry our own sheep. And yeah, she had to be put down. If it was anybody else's dog, it would have been the same. But it's sad, and it does happen.
Yeah, so please, if you're out and about near any particular fields in the countryside, just make sure that your dog is on a lead at this particular time of year. That's just about it for this week's Countryside, though. But just before we go, I've got time to mention that the Manx Plant and Garden Conservation Society, they're having an evening with Medwyn Williams, very famous Welsh vegetable grower, 11-time winner of the gold medal at the Chelsea Flower Show. They've invited him over, and he's going to give a talk at their do at the St John's Methodist Hall. That's all happening on Tuesday, the 12th of April. His topic, Growing for Gold. So a very fascinating evening. So if you want more details on that, you can contact Kathleen Morrie from the Manx Garden and Conservation Society for more details.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
There we go. Variety as usual on this week's Countryside, from calves to greyhounds, and also plants and herbs as well, haven't we?
Very lucky to have such a diverse culture in the Isle of Man, really. Yeah. It's lovely to see, especially the homegrown things and people trying to strive for success in new genetics. It really does keep the Isle of Man going.
Yeah, and it gives you heart, really, because that's just a sort of part of what the Isle of Man is, isn't it? People trying to help as a sort of venture, to help animals, people looking after the community in the heart of Douglas, keeping family businesses going, and people in a fairly dire farming industry at the moment, trying to strive for something new. Well,
that's it. People are encouraged to diversify, especially within the agricultural industry, and it's nice that they are really trying to keep it going. And without the farmers, I think it would be quite a dismal countryside, really. So hopefully it'll
Keep them supported.
Keep them supported.
Okay, that's it for Countryside. We'll be back next week. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kiri Kermode.
We'll see you next week. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.